Create a seamless pattern in Photoshop. I'm using CS3, and I also want to talk about some low-tech solutions for doing this. For example, you might have some samples of wallpaper or some fabrics that have patterns on it. You can take this stuff and scan it in, and then maybe manipulate it some and do something like that, or even take some graph paper and do your own design that will work as a seamless pattern, or do something in Adobe Illustrator, or do something directly in Photoshop. I'm going to do something in Photoshop that's going to help explain the concept a little bit, and then I think once I do that, you'll be able to do this however you wish to do it. So to begin with, I'm just going to get rid of this text layer. I'm just going to drag it into the garbage right there and get rid of it. And I want to show this little object of a thing that I created a moment ago. It's just some lines that are with different colors in it. And I'm going to do something interesting with it by taking the selection tool and just drawing a big selection around it, and then going into filter and then distort, and then giving it a twirl, and just something like that. I can get a better idea of how that's looking by magnifying the little dialog box down a little bit. Maybe I don't want it quite like that. Maybe that looks fair. I'm just going to do that and hit OK. Okay. Now I've also created some guides to help me center this into the canvas, and this is important. My canvas is a perfect square. It's 5 inches by 5 inches. My pattern's going to completely fill this because Photoshop wants to grab an image that is perfectly proportional to itself in regards to height and width to generate or to define its pattern. So I have a square canvas here. Now I'm going to get this object a little bit bigger because I don't want all this blue space around the pattern. So I'm going to hit Control T on the keyboard just to get this a little bit larger. Maybe something like that will do good. Maybe a little bit smaller, like something like that. Then I'm going to hit OK for a second. And now to show those guides that I created earlier, I'm going to hit just Control H, and you can use that to show or hide the guides. The guides are really easy. If you show the rule by going into View, Show the Rule, if you check that, you get the ruler around your canvas. You can drag out these nice guides that can help you. Now to get my object kind of centered, I want to hit Control T. And this is just one quick way of getting that centered. I can see that the center point is right there, and if I drop that in the center, that's pretty much in the center. Okay, so now to get this moving along, I want to do some other interesting things with this pattern with some little objects in the middle. So just watch me. I'm going to do some things, and then they'll make a little bit sense as we move along. I'm going to grab this top right corner. I'm in the layer that I'm supposed to be in. I'm going to hit Control C and then Control V as in Victor to copy and paste that. It copies and pastes it into its own layer. And now I want to go back to the original layer of the object and do the same thing and do copy, paste, and bring that into that corner. Back to the original layer, same thing. Copy, paste, into the corner, original layer, select, copy, paste, and then down to the last corner right there. Now all of these things will work together as a seamless pattern, but I want to make it a little more interesting, as I said, with some little objects in between in the blue space. So just to move things along a little bit, I'm going to get all of these things into one layer. Otherwise, I'm going to start getting tons of layers, and it's going to perhaps get a little confusing. I have all of those objects at a selected layer. I held down the Control key to select additional layers, and now I want to go into the little down arrow right there and go Merge Layer. So all of those things I had selected are now all in one layer. And now I want to create a new layer, And you can also name your layers. Sometimes when you're getting a lot of layers, you can name them. I know I want to put a star right there because if I go into the custom shapes, I've got a nice star and it has a yellow color to it, which is what I want. And I'm going to just draw that. Now if I just draw it loosely, it shows up in all these odd proportions, but if I hold down the shift key, it'll maintain its proportions. I'm going to do that. And let's see that I want it about that big is nice. And I'm going to drag this up to about right there. And actually a little bit higher. I'm going to do it like right there. It seems to be snapping in the center right there, so that's good. I'm going to duplicate that by just dragging it down to the little page pill. That's going to duplicate it. And I've got a duplicate. If I hold the shift key, it'll drag it straight down and it'll lock it in the same position. So that's good. And I can fill it as it snaps in right there. It feels like it's going to snap in right there. I can see that this top of the star is going to match up with the bottom of that star right there. So that's good. I'm going to keep doing this. Copy and just copy again. Doesn't matter which one I copy because they're all the same. And then drag the next one off to the side here. And I can feel it snapping in. And there's one more right here. I'm going to drag this one down and get that right there. And now I'm going to combine all of this stuff together. 1, 2, 3. Holding down the control key and getting all the layers selected. And then back into the little down arrow right there. I'm going to hit merge layers. Now all of that stuff is in one layer. If I toggle the eyeball on and off, I can see, yeah, that's definitely all in one layer. Now I'm going to define this as a pattern. I'm going to call it, I'm going to go into Edit, Define Pattern, call it Swirl and Stars, and hit OK. And now I'm going to turn this off for a second. I'm going to turn that layer off. And now I'm going to turn this layer on, which is just a white canvas. And I'm also going to turn this layer on as well. It's a garment that I found online. And I've already taken the time to kind of crop it out, but the white in the background is going to help just visually. I'm going to click on that top layer where that garment is. And then I'm going to right click and go into blending options and then into pattern overlay. I can click on it, but I can't see the tools until I click on the word pattern overlay. So I'm going to do that. It brings in that first pattern by default. That's alright. The one that I created is right here. It's the swirl and stars. And I'm going to hit off. I'll click off to the side and then change the scaling of this a little bit. And let's say that I'm happy with that right there. I'm going to try I'm going to try the snap to origin and see how that looks. That's kind of getting things kind of centered a little bit. That looks good. And to get the black outline back, I'm going to click in the blending mode, the blending mode, and select normal, which is the first option. And then to my keyboard, I'm just going to click the down arrow and look for darken. Darken's bringing those black colors back that I want. So I'm going to hit OK. So that's how you can create a seamless pattern and apply it to an object. And that's all for this tutorial.